Let's get into it. My first question for today, Pastor Steve, is this. When Googling and searching commentaries, I cannot find anything that confirms that the shepherd breaks a sheep's leg when it strays from the shepherd. I've heard a number of pastors repeat that when talking about Psalm 23. Do you know if this was a thing or just a biblical legend?
I learned that from a book called Shepherd Looks at Psalm 23 by Philip Keller. And so Keller was apparently involved with raising sheep, and that's where I got that story from. And so whenever I quote the story, I quote Philip Keller. I have seen people try to debunk that whole thing, but usually what they do is they'll come up with reasons why that's not reasonable. As far as it might kill the sheep, and that's a possibility, and it's mean, and I could see that from their point of view, and that kind of stuff. And many times they'll say they can't find any reference any place, and even if a whole group of shepherds, for example, in one article I looked at one point, even if a whole group of shepherds actually raise their sheep that way, that would be like taking the advice of a whole group of violent dads, abusive dads, and saying that's how children should be raised. And so therefore God would never do that, and shepherds would never do that, and and that whole argument just sounds like I don't like the story, and so I'm going to come down against it. To me, it's like I read lots of commentaries and I look at lots of things in history. There is no evidence of that in the Bible specifically, and in the context of Philip Keller, the guy never said it was in the Bible. He talked about the fact that this is one of those things that shepherds would do in extreme cases. And he talked about the rod in connection with that. And so basically, when I'm using that illustration, I'm trusting that Keller has got his facts straight, and I don't know that he doesn't. A lot of times when I see emotional arguments against something, I have a problem with those things from the get-go. The other thing is, can we find places in the Bible where God uses radical situations to turn people around?
Yeah, everywhere, including my own life.
Yeah, exactly. And so saying that God would never be like that is just nonsense. God had a fish swallow Jonah and barf him up on the shore. Jonah thought he was a dead man. And that's all to get Jonah to go and talk to some Ninevites. And so
Rip Jacob's hip out of place, which is very similar.
Yeah, exactly. Just beat the snot out of Jacob is what happened in that situation, and and stuff like that. So I think the argument is a non-starter in the first place. As far as whether or not ancient shepherds did this, I don't know. I don't know if that's the case or not. And so again, when I've used that, I haven't quoted the Bible on that. I've quoted Philip Keller on that. So,
which, when you're going through, is an important lesson. Is that if it's not in the Bible, you make it clear.
Yeah.
But when you're going through and using it as an example, the spiritual implications are clear, regardless of it's straight out of the text. And as long as you're communicating that, you're safe. You're good to go.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.